Alright, I'm gonna show you another recipe from my book, Everyone Can Bake. Today we're doing a pastry cream. Pastry cream is essentially a base for a lot of different things in baking. We can make a shibust with it, which is a light cream with meringue. We can mix it with fruits. We can have it as a base for a tart. So really, really versatile. You can flavor it with a lot of different things as well. Simple recipe. We only have 5 ingredients. We have milk, sugar, cornstarch, butter, and yolks. So we'll start off in a pot right here with the milk that we're gonna heat up with about a third of the sugar. So we add a third of the sugar in the milk to make sure it's fully dissolved. The other two-thirds of the sugar we're gonna mix in a mixing bowl right here with the cornstarch. So we mix the sugar with the cornstarch to make sure that we don't get this little lump, little like pieces. So the sugar will really help prevent those pieces from happening once you mix it together. So just combine together with a whisk, fairly easy. And we're gonna add the yolks to this mixture right here.
It's a lot of yolks.
It's a lot of yolks. So this is a lot of yolks. I'm doing a large batch today as I want to show you a few things to do with this pastry cream. And one of my favorite things to eat growing up as a child was actually a flan. A flan is like a very custardy cake. I'm gonna make one later, and this is the base for also a flan. So here we incorporate the yolks with the cornstarch and the sugar. Just mix it well together and make sure this stays very smooth. As you can see, there's no pieces, there's no lump of cornstarch. It's because we mix it with the sugar ahead of time. Alright, my milk is hot right now, still not boiling, but this is a good time actually to temper my egg yolks. So temper the egg yolks, meaning adding a little bit of the liquid while it's hot but not boiling, to make sure I bring it up to temperature. If you were to pour a boiling liquid into the yolks, it will cook the yolks instantly, which you don't want to do. You'll have pieces and lump inside. It won't taste good, it won't be good. So I'm just gonna take a little bit of this hot but not boiling liquid, pour it with my yolks, just a little bit, combine it together. And I will say I will add probably about a third of the milk into the yolks. So once I'm here, my milk is almost coming to a boil. And when I see my milk start to bubble a little bit, so it's almost boiling, this is when I'm adding the mix of yolks and sugar right here. So I'm gonna stream this very slowly and keep mixing very fast. So remember, you have cornstarch, yolks inside, so this is going to set quite fast. This is going to thicken quite fast, so I'm gonna stir this and never stop stirring. Alright, now after just 2 or 3 minutes, my mix is getting thicker, as you can see. It's turning into like a custardy texture, and this is when I start mixing a lot more with a lot more strength. So always whisk every side, scrape the bottom, and you can turn down the heat a little bit to medium heat. So we won't cook the cornstarch. We don't want the flavor and the texture to be starchy. That's why we need to cook this for a little bit, about like 4 to 5 minutes, depending on the size batch you're doing. All right, my pastry cream has cooked for about 4 to 5 minutes now with beautiful, creamy, smooth consistency. And it's now the time to add the butter. So I cube the butter right here, so it's easier to incorporate. We can add everything at once. And mix this gently. So the butter is gonna add this like smooth, creamy texture to the cream. It's gonna be a perfect texture. All right, my butter is pretty much incorporated. As you can see, it seems like a lot of butter, but I'm doing a large batch right now. Look at this beautiful, creamy, smooth texture. It's gonna be delicious. Now our pastry cream is finished. What we're gonna do, we're gonna put a plastic wrap in contact with the pastry cream to make sure there's no skin forming and drying out. And we're gonna place this in the fridge. Remember, this has to be used cold. We're gonna then fill our choux, our eclairs, and we can then flavor with anything we want, like hazelnut, chocolate, pistachio, anything you like. All right, I showed you guys how to make a pastry cream. Now I'm gonna show you what we can make with it. In my book, Everyone Can Bake, there's actually 3 different sections. So the pastry cream is a filling. I'm going to show you how to make a flan, a French classic flan. It's something you can find in every bakery in France. It consists in just the pastry cream and sablé shell that's on the outside. So now we're going to make the sablé, and then we'll put the pastry cream inside and we'll bake it in the oven, which will make our perfect flan. For our vanilla sablé, we start with a few simple ingredients. Some all-purpose flour. We're going to put all the dry ingredients into the mixing bowl. Some powdered sugar, a little bit of cornstarch, some salt, butter cut into small cubes. It's actually tempered butter, so it's room temperature. If you just take it out of the fridge, you can also leave it out for about 20 to 30 minutes until it's room temperature. We're going to use the stand mixer with a paddle attachment. And we're going to combine this until the butter is fully integrated with the flour and the sugar. Then we're going to add 1 egg. And we'll flavor our vanilla sablé with fresh vanilla bean. If you don't have, you can also use vanilla paste or vanilla extract. And once everything is combined, just combine, I'm gonna stop here. I'm gonna add the vanilla bean. I put it flat against the cutting board, cut it in half. And then I'm gonna use the back of my knife to scrape off all the seeds from the inside. And this is where all the flavors of the vanilla is. I'm gonna put this in my sablé. If you don't have vanilla, or if you want to use something else, you can also flavor this with pretty much anything you want, anything that's a soft consistency, like peanut butter, for example, or hazelnut paste, or even pistachio paste, something that's liquidy, something that will incorporate very well with the sablé at this stage. Once your sablé is mixed, we're going to use plastic wrap. We're going to put everything in the center. Now I'm going to use the plastic wrap. Wrap it over and press everything down so it doesn't stick to my hands and I don't get the kitchen counter dirty. I'm gonna shape it into more or less a disc, so it will be easier once I'm ready to roll it out to spread it with a rolling pin. It doesn't have to be perfect, but as flat as possible, so it's pretty much like ready to go when you take it out of the fridge. Then we're gonna cover the dough. We'll put this in the fridge for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then we'll come back to it. All right, we have our dough that was sitting in the fridge for about 10 to 15 minutes. It was still a little bit cold. I'm gonna show you how to roll it and line it into this ring mold. So this is a professional ring mold. You can also use the one with the bottom that works perfectly, or even the cheesecake mold. And we're gonna work very quickly, as I don't want the dough to get warm on the counter. I'm gonna put a little bit of flour just right here. Flip it on the counter, so there's flour on the bottom of the dough. I'm gonna put a little bit more flour on top. And I'm gonna start spreading the dough. So always go from the center out. Always like grab the dough and spin it to make sure it doesn't stick on the counter. Put a little bit more flour. Want to roll it to about 3 millimeters thick, which is the right thickness for this size of ring mold. That's about right. What I do to check the size, I put the ring mold in the center and I lift the dough up to make sure I have enough, which I do here. Now I'm gonna roll the dough on my rolling pin. So inside my ring mold, I line some butter on the inside, just to make sure that the dough sticks to the mold. I'm gonna place this over the top. Try to center it as much as you can. Then I'm gonna push the dough in the center of the mold. And again, you have to work pretty quick so the dough doesn't get too soft. I'm gonna try to pushing the dough all the way to the bottom, touching the counter. And I always have a little bit of flour underneath to make sure it doesn't stick. So I use almost all my fingers, try to remove the wrinkles and push the dough all the way to the bottom. It's a delicate operation. It's not very easy to do. Sometimes the dough rips just like right now, but it's still okay. That's why you have to work with the dough very, very cold. As cold as possible, and preferably on a marble counter so the dough stays cold. So we'll push the dough with my thumb now. I push the dough inside and slide it against the side of the mold. Then I'm going to cut it with a knife. You see I do all of this pretty quickly to make sure everything stays cold. Put my dough on the side. I'm gonna come back here. I'm gonna push all my fingers, push the dough inside, and I want to try as much as possible to keep the same thickness all throughout. I'm going to trim it one more time. Then we have a lined shell ready to welcome our pastry cream, and it's going to be the base for our flan. Once I'm done with this, I'm gonna just pick it up and put it on the sheet tray lined with parchment paper. And don't worry too much if you have never done this before, or if the dough gets a little bit too warm, you can always stop, put it back on the sheet tray, put it in the fridge for a few minutes, and then come back to it. So as you can see, this is raw. What I'm going to do, I'm going to place the pastry cream into the shell right here. I'm going to bake this together. We don't always do this. Sometimes we just bake the shell, put it in the oven, for example, and then come back to it with just the shell baked, and then we'll put pastry cream and fresh fruit inside. So it's a different process here, as we're baking with the pastry cream, baking the shell and the pastry cream together to make a flan. I have my pastry cream here that was made ahead of time, so it's cold. We're gonna put our pastry cream inside the shell right here. And we're going to spread it all the way to the bottom. And we're going to go almost to the top. We're going to leave about a quarter of an inch to the top, as this is going to puff up a little bit, and then go back down. We're going to bake this at 350 degrees Fahrenheit in a convection oven for about 25 to 35 minutes depending on your oven. So my flan came out of the oven. I let it rest on the counter for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then I put it in the fridge for about an hour to make sure it's nice and cold. I'm gonna remove the ring, just lifting it up. It's fairly easy. I'm gonna cut a slice. You should have this nice texture, custardy flan. It looks beautiful. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. All these recipes are in my new cookbook, Everyone Can Bake. And now my favorite part, eating it.